Wisemore is here today visiting with us, Army veteran. Thank you, Steve, for coming in today. Could you give us a little background on yourself, please?
All right. Thank you, Howard. I was born in 6/14/49, right here in Wenatchee Valley, to Deaconess Hospital, and grew up here other than a short trip to Leavenworth when my dad was working up there and we had to relocate. And we lived up on Fuller Street by where the hospital is. Had a pretty interesting younger time. Liked working on motors and engines of lawnmowers and that kind of stuff. So my dad would drag home a piece of garbage and I'd tear it apart and make it run. And it was a lot of fun to do that. We had a vacant lot beside our house, so we just sat there and played with him in the vacant lot. Back then, a gallon of gas didn't cost much, so the old man didn't mind throwing something.
What was it, about 28 cents or something?
Probably.
Like that? It was real spendy stuff.
Yeah. And let's see, was that? It was just one of those things in life that my dad was one of these kind of people that he's going to teach you something one way or another. So every summer, in that time when we were up there, we were like 14 and my brother was like 60. And he had a project every year for us. So.
Was that for the summertime?
Yeah. Or whenever you were done.
Oh, I get it. Just to keep you busy. Huh?
Yeah, well, we drug it out a lot of times. But it was, the last thing I remember we did was build a retaining wall to hold in our backyard and that, because it was all sloped over to that side. And so we built this big wall, and he showed us how to, build a footing and how to do all the junk that it takes to do that. And then he made sure that we were on top of it and we were doing it right during the times. He didn't want his wall to look like crap, so he made it look good. Anyway, I went to Wenatchee High School, and graduated in '67. Did pretty good. I wasn't any brain, that's for dang sure. I took all the bonehead classes that I could to get myself through.
You and me both.
And it worked out pretty good. My dad was, I worked for Safeway at that time, and the old man was kind of a coarse old fart about, he said, man, if you can work there and make money like you're making, then you can start paying for rent. I says, I doubt it. I don't want to do that. Well, he said $100 a month. Well, I thought that was outrageous for back in 1960.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, 66, 67. Yeah. So he said, well, if you think you can do better, knock yourself out. Well, it took me one day to find these old apartments down off of Rondo Street that even had all the furniture and stuff in it, and I rented it. It was $35, $40 a month. That's what it was. Electric, everything.
Yeah.
Had a nice place to park and everything. It was back behind everything. It was great. But when I was working for Safeway, I was what they call the guy that carried out your groceries and hustled the girls and the mothers. Had a lot of fun doing that. Well, then as time went on, people came and gone and everything. Well, we had one of the guys in the produce department that he had an operation. His name was Zitting. And so I worked in the produce department for a couple of months while he was off. Did real good there. The boss loved it. He had an opening in the meat department. So he said, well, you want to try that? And I said, sure. So I went in there and did that. And it was interesting. you learns a lot on cuts of meat and that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stuff. You know.
That's a pretty good trade too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I thought it, and by then, I'd been in Safeway for enough years that I was getting some pretty good dollars. So it was great. And I did a little checking, not much, but a little bit of checking here and there. Well, after that, uh, I was out one Friday night, and some young little gal in a Ford coupe drove by me at high speed, so I caught up with her going toward Kashmir. One thing led to another, but the police caught us at a higher rate of speed than we were supposed to be doing. So he kind of flagged me off to the side of the road. Well, dumb as I was at that time, I thought I'd get away with it. So I turned around and down the highway and went down into the center turf and stuff and drove out the other side and come on home. The next morning they were at my door to escort me down to the police station and for evading a police officer, speeding, blah, 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 blah.
Sure.
Well,
Sure.
when I hit court, the judge that was there at the time says, hey, I want to give you something. You can be on probation, you can do this and do that in public work. But he said, if you go in the service, then I won't force you to do that. You can, as long as you do it sign up within the next month or two. And this was about, oh my gosh, when was it? It was just after summer. And went over to Fort Lewis, went through basic training over there. Wanted to be a helicopter pilot. Oh boy, I had it all in my head, visions of doing all this stuff. And I just forgot that people don't always tell you the truth. So the guy that was getting me in, what do they call
Recruiter.
him? Recruiter.
I've got another name for the one that got me in, but we'll just stick with recruiter.
Yeah, well I did too.
Yeah.
But he told me that I wouldn't have any problem and all that jazz. Well, I got through basic training and went into the AIT, which is a good deal. And it was workable.
Now, where'd you take AIT at, Steve?
Oh, Fort Eustis, Virginia. Right back on the coast there where they have the ships and stuff.
Now, was that aviation?
Yes. Yes.
So what's that, 67?
67 and 20.
That's right. Okay.
And
Hard for a couple old guys to remember the numbers so far back.
Yeah.
There we go.
And I thought I had her made. I mean, I was doing good in the classes and everything. And before it was all over, they wanted me to take an eye test. Never had one. And so here I am, taking it, and didn't pass. I was just a little bit off on where you
Right.
can figure out where your depth perception is. So that was the end of the story about doing that. Well, they said you have one choice. You have two choices. But she said one of them is you're going to be, you could be going to the ground pounding and you take your rifle, and you did do real well with that. And I almost regretted it, but I got an expert for in M14. But yeah, I thought, oh no, this isn't going to cut it. I'm not going to like this at all.
67 into 11 Bravo. That's a jump, isn't it?
Yeah, a real downer there. But and all my schoolwork and everything was really good, so I did well there. Well, he said, well, you got another choice too. And I said, what's that? He said, well, you can be a crew chief on a helicopter and a door gunner. I said, crew chief sounds good. Door gunner doesn't sound good. I've heard rumors of that. If you're going to be a pilot, you're the one that's under control. as a crew chief, you're just sitting back there hoping he's making the right decisions. So anyway, I went ahead and took that. And they put us in a build-up unit in Kansas, Fort Riley, Kansas. That was during the time of Eisenhower was fading, and we had to do a flyover for after his death, and we just had a real good build-up unit there where we all flew together and worked together and put up with the Kansas winters.
Now, what unit was that you were stationed with there, Steve?
What unit was it there?
Yeah, what were they building up down there? Was that an air cav unit or?
It was, what was it?
Was it an air cavalry unit or?
Yes, it was. It was. It was a build-up unit. That's what it was. We were out on the airstrip, and they had housing out there on that old barracks from the World War I, I think.
Yeah.
They went up, and if they got caught fire, they were gone before you could get your clothes out.
Oh.
Yeah, they were quite a deal. But that's where I finished up there and went to Texas for a real short one for tightening up the tail or retightening tail rotors on the Hueys, and then they sent them on from Texas on into California, where they put them on a ship and shipped them over. So after I got done with that, then I got to go home for a month and hang out with the gang and do my thing. And when I got done with that, I went back to Fort Riley, and they took us to a big Air Force base somewheres, and we flew out of there to Alaska to Hawaii, and then to Japan, and then Vietnam. Well, that was about the rudest smell I had ever had. When we climbed off that plane, besides the humidity and the heat, the smell had a stench of its own in that country. Had to do with their potty training, I should say. They did it in the ditch. They were waiting for a bus or whatever. You'd turn around and there they are. They're behind you in the ditch doing their thing. But I remember when I was walking off the tarmac and getting ready to get in the bus, I noticed these aluminum rectangle boxes that were all lined up about as far as you could see. And I asked this guy, I said, "What the heck are those for?" And he says, "Your replacement and you." And I said, "What?" He goes, those are caskets. Just a temporary casket until you get stateside." And I looked at that and saw how many of them was there, and I think, oh my gosh. I says, "Good thing they're empty." And he says, "Oh, over half of them are probably full." And I don't know if he was just giving me the razz or what, but I took it serious enough that my P's and Q's going to be watching. So anyway, being a build-up unit, they were going to send us all the way up toward Way, which is up north quite a ways, but they hadn't established it yet. Well, because I drove all the trucks and all the equipment, I volunteered, so I wouldn't have to be picking up papers and crap. So I went to the motor pool before and when I was in Kansas and got all the recognized driver's licenses. Well, they needed somebody for a wrecker driver and convoys. Well, first thing I did was get into a convoy with, I think it was the First Army or something, and they were not prepared to be in Nam yet. They should have had their gear together better because we didn't get 20 miles and they were breaking down. And I was lassoing them to the rear end of this wrecker and pulling them down the highway. I think at one point I had 3 tow pieces that would tow them, and I was towing 3 different rigs up the highway. We got halfway up the highway, and took some fire, and the guys they were firing from a wooded line. So I'm sitting there, I'm shifting down to give some speed up, and the company commander of this outfit stops the whole convoy so he can make some, I don't know what he was thinking, but he wanted to go ahead and shoot at them from where we were out in the open and they were in a bush line there. So I drove on out and drove up beside him and says, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" He says, we're gonna establish a point here, you know." And I says, "You're crazy as hell. Best thing for you to do is get in your rig and we'll get the hell out of here before these guys kill us all. All we gotta do is shoot the first couple of rigs in the front, and I'm one of them, and we'll be immobilized and we won't be able to move." So I just kept on. He says, "You need to get back." I says, "I got it." They just kept right on going, and they followed suit. Well, we got up there and got into a little battle, and anyway, I won because he wasn't taking care of his business when he was going to school about what he was supposed to do and what he wasn't supposed to do. Well, anyway, I went into that outfit. It was Camp Eagle was the place I stayed at, and it was up quite a ways up north, and did maintenance on trucks and cars and all the junk that was there. Well, the end result was that they got the helicopters finally in, and they were going to set up a Camp Evans, and that was down south a ways. And so I proceeded to go from there because they wanted half the men that would get out at a certain time, and the other half would be staying there. So there always was a lot of people in each company in these companies,
Sure.
and it worked out good. And I got down there, and I says, "So where's this camp at?" And they said, "You're standing in it right now." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, we're going to establish, that's what we're doing here now. We're going to establish that the company right here, we're going to put concertina wire all the way around." Well, I wish we had razor wire back then. But we started setting up a perimeter all the way around there, building bunkers and stuff so you could get in there and have guard duty. And they moved the helicopters up on the pad, and we took some fire 2 or 3 times. Tet fence had come along and they overrun us. If it wasn't for Pup the Magic Dragon there coming in and putting holes in them, we'd have been in real bad shape. But we got through that, finished with everything, and I proceeded to take care of helicopters, crewing and stuff, off and on, this and that, because of the amount of helicopters they had. Well, then they decided that they wanted to put me in a situation where I run a crew that would do the maintenance on the helicopters when they came in, their 100 hours and all that kind of stuff, that they pull them down. Any problems that they may have with any of the helicopters, that we would tear them down in the hangar that the Seabees built for us. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And
So you're doing not only your on-spot maintenance, but preventative maintenance too.
yes,
Keep your readiness.
you're ready to go.
Okay.
In fact, pretty much I got a Bronze Star because my output, because we worked at night, we kept everything flying all the time. And next morning they were always ready to go. So we didn't have any downed helicopters. We had one that had an officer that was kind of a ass, best word for him. But he's always trying to catch us guys that worked at nighttime screwing up. Well, he went down there while we were having breakfast, and he was going through the helicopter, and he got up on top, and they have an intake with some screens on it, and he pulled them and just looked to see if we cleaned them. Well, in the process of doing that, he dropped his ink pens and pencil down in the intake, and then put the filters all back, of course. Well, we rotated them up and spun them and checked the blades, make sure they were all in level and everything. And they got ready to split, and they all climbed aboard, and they got up about 60 feet, and all of a sudden the whole thing shut down. The engine shut down on it. Well, they crashed into a rice paddy that was between our mess hall. It was just a little valley there. They crashed into that. Well, I got my boots on, and I was down there in an instant. And this officer that was trying to catch us, he was standing there telling the first command there, he was telling them that, see, I told you that it's only a matter of time when they're working that long and hard and stuff, that they're going to make mistakes. Well, I got down there, and I'm standing beside the helicopter, and it's sunk down in the mud, so it was easy to see the tail boom. Well, I noticed something on the back of the tail boom. It was blue in color. Smelled it a little bit. That was odd. So I went up to the company commander, and I says, I found this. There's a lot of this coming out of the back of the aircraft and down on the tail boom. And he looked at it, and he put his hand on mine and rubbed on it, looked at it. Says, it looks like ink. And about that time, this officer that was standing there grabbed his pocket. And my company commander says, come with me. He knew dang well what it was. His whole, one of those little plastic things that holds your pins and stuff, it had fell in there, and then it takes nothing to destroy an engine like that, because they just chain reaction of all the blades in there just ate it up. So anyway, I put in for R&R, and my first choice was Sydney, Australia.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, my second choice, Sydney, Australia. And the company orderly or whatever says, you're not going to get anything if you do that. You need to put Bangkok or something else. I said, well, I got my heart set on going to Australia. He says, well, we'll see, you never know. Well, I got down to 11 months being over there. And I'm prepping myself to go home. Get a letter, Department of Army, you get to go to Australia. So that was a week less than the 4 weeks that I had coming. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
I mean, you're short already. Now you're going to be short in Australia.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, if I got to lose some time, that's a perfect place to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was fantastic. One of those memories that you will never forget. There was probably, for every 10 women, there was only one guy.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and a lot of those were in Nam.
Mm-hmm.
They, of course, because our war effort in helping Australia out when we did, they were all about helping the United States out.
Now, up at Evans, what division were you with up there? Was that the 101st at Evans, or?
What's that, bud?
What was it the 101st up there at Evans?
Yes. 163rd Aviation. Yeah.
Now, besides shoes, I mean, do you have any loaches or any cobras or anything in there too? Or?
We had loaches, which looked like an Easter egg, and we had one cobra. And the rest were Hueys, and I think there was 8 of them.
So they didn't run any pink tames or anything out of there, or? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Let's see, whatever. When I got back off of that my R&R, I did did my time. Remember flying out of there in one morning, and it was real foggy. They took us down to Da Nang. In the process of flying down there was some other helicopters that were too, but they were at a different elevation than we were. And we were flying along, and all of a sudden, I'm looking out the window, and here's a blade of a helicopter just right about eye level, and just about 6 feet, 8 feet out. And I yelled, and the officer that was flying the helicopter ducked to the right, and we missed everything. But I thought, oh my gosh, I'm right here at the very end, and I'm gonna go down in a blazing glory, and that'll be the end of that jazz. So I ended up coming home, and all the time I was there, I was putting money aside for an automobile, and it was a 70 Nova SS with everything on it, and it was brand new, and it was $3,200 out the door, you know, and $3,200 wouldn't take care of the first payment on a car now.
I know. Not even a car like that SS either. I mean,
No. And yeah, and
what a sweet machine, boy.
oh, yeah. The only drawback was that the wife that I had met when I was in this home on leave, she's a farm girl. She said she could drive a stick, but she'd never know it. She was grinding gears and everything else in that thing, and it started driving me crazy because I wasn't going to be the only one that drove. But that was our only car.
Sure.
And I was working on getting a motorcycle so I could drive it. Well, I ended up turning it into a dealership and getting a little Opel, and that was the biggest mistake of my life. But it took care of the wife, and that was the important part. Now, after that, I worked for Suggs Tires, which was a tire shop in town that capped tires. I did that for quite a long time, until he didn't like long hair, so he told me, I'm telling you, get a haircut. He told me 3 or 4 times. Yeah. Next thing I know, I didn't have a punch-in card. So that was my last day. And we'd been in profit sharing, and I'd worked a lot of hours and made some money. And he said the board wouldn't meet for about 6 months, 7 months. So come back then, and you get your profit sharing. Well, I'd known that they were doing poorly financially, so I went into the office and got the names of all the people on the board, called them individually at night time, and asked them if you could have a special meeting because I'd just been laid off. Sure. They were all great. I knew them, all of them.
That's great.
They'd come in there all the time. So they gave me my profit sharing, and it was a nice sizable chunk of change for the time.
Sure.
And they basically almost went bankrupt shortly after that. Well, by that time, when I was told not to come back, I went to work for the state highway surveying Winthrop area and a bypass thing, and enjoyed the heck out of that because we were able to ride our dirt bikes and to point and put these targets out so that they could fly in and take pictures of the terrain and such. And it was a good job, and I enjoyed the heck out of that. And after that, I went to work surveying for Chelan County PUD up and down the river because they were going to raise the dam up, and the fluctuation of the water, they wanted to take it up, so they had to cut the brush down low so when the water come up, there wouldn't be stobs down below.
Sure.
So we did that survey
Was
thing.
that for Rocky Reach or Rock Island?
Well, basically it was for both,
Oh, okay.
because we started at Rocky Reach and worked our way down the river all the way to Rock Island, mapping on each side, staking and everything, where the flow where the flow was going to be, so we make sure that they cut it down far enough.
Well, that was a pretty considerable job in itself right there.
Oh yeah, it was a 8-month job. And after that, then I got a job with Stone and Webster Engineering, which was part of this survey thing.
Sure.
And that was great too, because I was able to make prints of all the things that were going on in the unit generators and what they're doing. Well, unbeknownst to them, I was making one extra copy of every one of the documents that I got and stashing them away. Well, when it was all said and done, the PUD, I heard via the grapevine that they were going to have to buy their prints from Stone and Webster Engineering. And it was kind of one of those things where they had them right where they wanted them, because they thought nobody had made any copies. Well, I volunteered to the Chelan County PUD that I had all these copies, and here they are. And I mean, we're talking a wad.
Sure,
Huge,
sure. Yeah, you bet.
each one of them. And they were a little happy.
Oh, yeah.
They
I bet.
saved themselves thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So shortly after that, I got a job there, and that's what I did for 27 years until I had hurt my back, my neck a couple times, and I got out on an early out because I had got out of the Army on an early out, and so they let me have an early out with the PUD. 3 months, not
Sure.
much of
Well,
anything, but
three-
3 months is 3 months.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I did that in 2004, and here I am, doing my thing,
Yeah, retired.
retired.
Well, cool, Steve.
Yeah.
Hey.
Is there anything else, Howard?
No, hey, I appreciate you coming in, Steve. It was an interesting chat, and
Yeah,
I just appreciate it a whole lot. So thank you very much.
you bet. And